Hey folks, welcome to another carving video. Today I want to go over axe carving. Today we're going to be talking about basic axe techniques and what kind of axes I use for carving and what kind of axes I have experienced to be most useful for the kind of carving I do. There are a lot of nice axe carving videos or axe technique videos out there better, about splitting, about felling, about other things you can do with bigger two-handed axes, and I don't want to go over that today, but there is, as I said, there is great videos out there showing you stuff that you can use in bushcraft, or how to use a bigger axe safely. So when it comes to carving, I talk about spoons, small bowls, some small hewing, for example when I make a paddle, when I make a bow, or when I make an axe handle, funny enough. So when I do carving, then there's two things I want to think about. First of all, for me it's the blade shape, and second of all it's the weight. Over the years I have done several axes, or I've modified many different axes, from heads I found on yard sales, on flea markets, or I found on the web, on eBay, or friends in the Axe Junkies forum, for example, or the Axe Junkies group better. And so I just want to say I've experienced different axes and I've just figured out what's fine for me. So I'm just a little bit of a bigger dude, so what is fine for me might be a little bit heavy for you, or if you're bigger than me you might even be fine with a bigger axe. So for me, axes between 550 and 700 grams roughly are the best weight in order to be controllable for me, in order to have effective stock removal without tiring me too much. The tiring part is something I'm gonna go over in a second when I come to handles, because for me the handle is actually most important when it gets to how quickly I tire. Axe blade wise, it's also the first important thing for me in an axe. So the axe blade has to be quite long compared to the overall size of the axe, if that makes sense. And also it has to have, for me, a nice swoop or a nice curve to it, because in axe carving I don't chop that much, I actually cut, I slice. And another important thing in the axe for me is that it has a beard, so I can get behind it, but it's also just a design element that I just really like look wise. And I've found the tools that I love to look at and I love to hold and just cherish, I just love using. And if that makes any sense to you, it just makes the whole process more enjoyable and does somehow for a better product. So that's just some esoteric ideas on the side. So I have some axes here right now that I want to show you. It's quite busy here on the chopping block before I get to the piece of wood that we actually do the technique tutorial with. So I started out with the Brooks Wildlife Hatchet, and I have a video about that wonderful axe on my channel, so if you're interested in a review of that axe and the custom sheath I make for it, please head over to my channel and just scroll around a little bit. I'm sure you find something that you like. The Brooks Wildlife Hatchet is a great axe to get involved with into carving. It's a wonderful steel, hafted perfectly. It's a lifetime value of an axe, but it's not exactly geometry wise designed for carving. However, I used it for 2.5 years actually straight. The steel is wonderful. I modified the edge a little bit more to a straight Scandinavian bevel, and if there was only the Wildlife Hatchet, I would be fine, don't get me wrong. However, I had the opportunity to move on a little bit and find out what I like, so here I am. And I started to modify Kent pattern axes. Kent pattern is a old English, sorry guys, it's an old English style of axes as I understand. Those here are both antiques, or like vintage axes if you want to put it that way. And they're wonderful, they're really nice, but the the quality differs a lot. You can get some laminated wonderful blades, and then you can get some not so nice, very like soft steel that doesn't really hold an edge too much. I have been quite lucky with mine. Some of the ones I got over the years were not so good, but then again, those old axes and axe heads can be very cheap. So the cant pattern axe comes in very different sizes and weights, and also thicknesses, and it's overall a type of shape, but it is very versatile. You have a lot of different shapes. So it is, when you buy some of those axes online, just make sure you're gonna look at them from different angles. This is a very small Sevaquick axe. It has a really sweet steel, and I put some straight bevels on them, on it, stropped it a little bit for a micro convex bevel, and carved the birch handle from it, or for it, with a nice balance point. And birch is, as I understand, quite traditional in Scandinavia for axe handles, and you always got to remember that in axe carving we're not like two-handedly swing huge axes with a lot of force against like very hard tree trunks that don't give that easily. So we have a lot of a much bigger variety of axe handle materials available that we can make axe handles from. So you can literally take a nice branch that you like, the curvature for example, because it's always going to be a stronger handle if the wood fibers follow the handle, and you just, you know, you carve it, you let it dry, and you just fit it to the axe, and you're actually good to go with a nice carving axe. So don't worry in the beginning too much about the perfect axe. Get one from Home Depot or like any other kind of store if you just want to try out carving. And later, if you really like carving, just go ahead and get your dream axe, and it's probably gonna be your companion for the rest of your carving life. Or like in my case, you're gonna have a soccer team of axes. Kind of. Well, so that's a little cant pattern, really sweet axe. It's a little bit light for me, I think, but for somebody a little bit smaller, or who likes a light axe, this one would do still a great job with stock removal. And it's a sweet little blade. I can totally see this as a lifetime of a carving axe. So we go on. These two are actually modified from cant patterns, so they had basically the same look as the one before, but I just took them to an angle grinder and a belt sander. This one actually is a laminated blade. It has a piece of, not on the back here, but on the front it actually has a piece of hard steel laminated between two layers of softer steel that appear when you sharpen it. I was really lucky with that one. It's not exactly 100% straight, a little bit crooked and everything, but the steel is sweet. And I made this 8th century Viking axes from it, because Vikings had no saws, and chisels, draw knives, knives and axes were the only tools they had for their amazing shipbuilding and all the other crafts they did. And I just love that shape with the beard, excuse me, the beard, the swoop to it. Those just slice and carve like crazy. However, this one is knife thin, so it's like 4 mil thick or something like that. It's like a thick knife. This really light axe. I made the handle from Japanese tonguri I brought over from Japan from one of my last trips, and it's a really sweet axe. It's light, it has a nice balance point. Oops, where is it? There we go. Nice balance point. Just slices like a knife. And this one here has a little bit more of a straight handle, which you also can find on Viking axes, but is a great slice as well. Has the beard. It's very important how far the distance is from the blade to the handle, but there we're going into really like detail and of axe designs, and so far I can just tell you this kind of style of axes, cant patterns, these are awesome. Here's another one. That was my recent carving axe for a long time actually. It is made from a French axe head that I found on the French eBay page. It's a wonderful steel. I got it in a trade with some other Goldenbergs or Goldbergs or however they called. Really nice axe. I modified it a little bit with a tiny beard and gave it an ash handle. All the handles are hand carved by me, and this one has some milk paint on it as well, like the Viking axe before. And this one was my carving axe for quite a few months now, and I really like it. The distance between the blade and the haft is a little bit long, so it can feel a little bit unstable at times. This axe also weighs in right at 680 grams. It's a perfect weight for me. It just removes stock so easily. It's really sweet. Now all my axe handles, and I really take care of that. It's really important for me. I try not to make him slippery at all. I had that trouble with another axe for a while. And if you make an axe handle or you choose an axe, just make sure it's not slippery. It has a nice oval shape, and it has a little bit of a ridge line in front of the handle, so your knuckles kind of engage with that, and you're always sure of the direction of the blade when you carve. So that's all I wanted to say for now about axe shapes and about the axes that you can use. This one here, by the way, is the infamous Hans Carlsen Sloyd axe that I just got recently, and I'm extremely stoked about this one, and I'm gonna go over it in a dedicated review. But for now, that's enough from axes, and let's get chopping. Hello again, folks. From now on, I want to teach you a few very basic ways of using an axe in carving. These axes should be very sharp, because then you can aim, take your time, and make reasonably strong chops or slices with your axe. It's always important to keep all your carving equipment sharp, so you don't have to muscle anything, and muscling makes you make mistakes, and the consequences can be very bad. Me personally, I hold the axes in different positions depending on the task. I hold it only in way back here if I do very strong chops, which is hardly happening any time, and it's most of all when I'm doing hewing work on bigger pieces of wood. But then I rather switch to a different axe actually before I kind of like exceed the abilities of an axe like this. Then I usually hold it kind of in the middle, right there where this kind of bend is in here, because engaging my hand in here, because of this swoop, it's a very natural holding position, and using it, as you later can see, it's just naturally leading to a slicing and cutting motion. Other than that, it's important, as I said before, that those axes fit your hand. The handle is not too fat or too small, because it's gonna tire you out, and it's not too slippery, because if it's too slippery, you're gonna be like cramping and onto the axe handle, which is gonna lead to very quick tiring of your forearms, and eventually it can also lead to some tendonitis and some problem with your joints. I'm trying in axe carving, like I do with my in Japan when I train with a sword, or when I do archery. I'm trying to have my thumb pointing towards the direction of the blade, if that makes any sense, because that way I have like a straight connection from my hand all the way to my elbow, and it just makes for a better hand-eye coordination when I'm chopping, and I just get a natural feeling for the blade direction, which prevents a lot of blows like this, where my axe is basically like blowing off the piece of wood because of my axe blade not engaging. And yeah, so when I do very fine stuff, I kind of choke up on the blade, and in some cases taking away smaller pieces of wood, or like on a spoon when it comes to very small pieces and I don't want to actually chop, I even find myself to choke up and kind of like carve and rock the axe nearly like a herb knife, like one of those ulu knives you use in the kitchen for cutting herbs. It's very controlled that way, and you can just use your axe like a guillotine. yeah, that's a technique I saw using Lee Stoffer using in one of his carving videos the first time, and I do it occasionally, not too often, but I use it when I feel like it's safer. Safe can also mean that I don't destroy my spoon by just chopping off too much or like hitting the wrong spot. So yeah, when it gets to carving, there's a few things you want to think about. The chopping block shouldn't be too high or too low for you. So just figure out when you're sitting where you want to have it. When I'm sitting down, I have my axe arm very often resting on my knee, so I have a lot less variables in movement, and I just use it then like a guillotine or like a forge hammer, a hydraulic forge hammer, and I just turn the piece under my hand, or under my axe better, don't get me wrong. But that's something I want to go into when we get finally into the axe carving. So your chopping block should be hip height, I think, when you have a standing one, and when you have a sitting one, just figure out yourself how you like it. Then your chopping block can be designed different ways. I like having a little step in here for different kind of spoon carving problems you run into, and it's very important that it's stable and that you have the right height for you. Another thing that is important is when you chop, always be aware where on the chopping block you're actually working, because if you're working very close to you, if you miss the piece, then more than likely the axe is gonna miss the chopping block as well, and then we actually putting our leg and life into jeopardy. So work away from you, basically on the far end of the chopping block, so when you miss the piece or you have a blow off or something, you have enough area of chopping block here to catch the axe. So a bigger chopping block, this one is a portable one, but a bigger chopping block as is like very stationary item in your shop would be of course better. Another thing you have to watch, or you have to look for, just like in knife carving, archery, or any other thing that involves potentially dangerous items, is what's happening as soon as you take action. So in a knife, for example, after I go through the cut, where is the knife going, and what it is in that area where the knife is going. Is if there's like one of my thighs in the way or something, it is not not optimal. In archery, of course, you want to know, like you want to shoot the targets that have a clearing behind and things like that, as you understand. And the same is true for axes, if that makes sense. If I chop through, or I have a blow off, or I miss the item and the axe goes misses the chopping block, where is it going? What is going to happen there? So in that case, my right leg, as a right side dominant person, is usually the one that is a little bit in danger. So in general, I just want to put it back a little bit. It's still a very normal, like natural stance, because my weight is evenly distributed, but I'm just safe here rather than when I'm just standing shoulder width and as you can tell, I miss and it's going right into my leg. I over exaggerate this kind of issue a little bit, but it's just, it's just a very important point, and you should be aware of it. And when you teach techniques like this, that's just something you want to mention. A lot of people also stand like very much centered over their chopping block, and like on the far end of the chopping block even, and don't use a lot of force, and it's probably like what I do a lot as well. In that case, you're of course minimizing your risk of taking too big blows, missing the block, going like, risking endangering your legs. So you just want to figure out your way how it's safest, and just want to like spare a few thoughts about this kind of situation. So we have a piece of apple here that's actually a little bit cocky because it has some twists and stuff in it, but it's still green, so I'm gonna use it. The axe is sharp. I'm gonna take my medium force grip, so to say. If you want to like choke up on the back here, you have a lot of force. You're choking up in front here, you're gonna have a lot of control, but not a lot of chopping ability actually here. Just not a lot of power. So I'm here in my medium position, and now when I want to start chopping, I'm not taking very big blows, but I'm gonna take kind of consistent chops or consistent cuts, and I use my left hand to turn and move the workpiece. And now it's really just coming to stock removal in general. So this hand is just doing an up and down movement. And there's another point I want to emphasize here, that is not only important for the effectiveness of your blow, but it's also important for the safety. When I use the axe, I don't really want to do this kind of wrist flick forward, you know, like I'm fly fishing, because it is not very controlled. It is tiring my wrist and my tendons, and when I miss, I have the axe coming forward like this. I don't like it. These axes are designed to cut and to carve, a little bit like a Japanese sword. They have a nice swoop to it, and if you're keeping the pommel of the knife of the axe handle lower than the axe head constantly, you're gonna see with this kind of movement how the axe engages, and you actually get a slicing motion. When I keep the pommel lower than the head at all times, and you have this slicing motion, and it's very controlled. So for example, if I want to take away stock here because it's a knife handle, an axe handle, or a spoon handle, or a bow for example, I'm gonna do a series of chops along this edge, and it's always easier to take off edges and corners than whole surfaces. That's what I'm going over in my other videos as well. You're gonna see how the pommel of the axe handle is consistently lower than the head. I'm working here on the back third of the chopping block, and I do a consistently same movement with my right hand, working out of the elbow more or less. The weight of the axe, as I said before, it's very important. The weight of the axe is working for me. I don't have to force a lot. I have to lift and drop the axe. I lift it and drop it. The series of cuts in the wood make sure that the strength of the fiber is weakened, so they're not trying to interfere. And I can use that method anywhere I want. Here we have some knots, of course a little bit harder. Lift the axe, you drop it in place, you pry. You lift, you drop, you pry. I'm not really going for any kind of particular shape at the moment, but again, if you want to take off material, always try to have a series of nicks. Keep your fingers out of the way. Don't stick your thumb, your forefinger, anything in here. Just keep them together. Claws here. A series of nicks on the back third of the chopping block. Drop the axe, keep the pommel lower. That happens sometimes, but if you're controlled, and that could be already a basic shape of a spoon blank, very basic. not a lot of, I'm actually not swinging very far. I'm coming from here, and I just let the axe drop, keep the pommel low, and it just cuts for me. And then if I want to take away smaller pieces, I hold the axe blade at an angle. Usually I point down the tip a little bit, so again I have like a slicing, a good slicing angle, and I can just push. I don't have to do a slicing motion because the axe blade is already curved. So by holding it at an angle and pushing, the blade is automatically cutting. So okay guys, that is a very basic video about axe technique. So let's go over it once more. Find a nice grip, think about how you want to grab the axe, and of course, first of all, choose an axe that you're fine with. When you get a cheap one, don't get one over 500 or 600 grams in the beginning. When you use an axe, think about safety, where to put it on a chopping block, what kind of chopping block you have, what kind of technique you use, standing or sitting. What's your right leg if you're right-handed, your left leg if you're left-handed. Work on I said, on the back half of the chopping block. Get your fingers out of the way, keep the pommel lower than the axe head, and let it just drop into the same place all the time, and use your left hand or your non-chopping hand to move the workpiece keep your axe sharp. And if you're not 100% sure about the cut, choke up on the axe, point, tilt the point forward, engage, and then just push from a straight elbow to make your hopefully sharp axe slice like a razor. Another technique I want to quickly go over is when you make the crank of a spoon. It's a very different technique. I just want to show very quickly. It's something you have to experiment a little bit. I put my hip and my legs way back, and usually I have a cut in here where the deepest part of the spoon bowl would be. Put my hips way back. I put my hips way back, put the spoon sideways on the chopping block, hold it on the very far end, and put my wrist and my forearm basically behind the spoon, and then very controlled and with small chops and slices I try to engage from both sides into the saw cut or the axe chop to form the deepest part of the spoon bowl. In this case it's a little bit tricky because I have a knot right there in my presentation piece. You see, I make small chops, I come from above, I slice through, and basically the axe, if it misses, it either goes into the chopping block here, or it just drops through. These chops are very small and controlled. This technique is a little bit more risky, but it is kind of it's kind of important for my spoon carving, and it's definitely something you can work on and train to make it to customize it for your needs and for your technique. And as you can see, please don't take this as one example of my work. but we just made a crank in here in the spoon bowl from both sides. So if you guys for watching. I know the video was a little bit clumsy maybe. I hope you learned something today. If you have questions about any of the techniques you want to know, or you want to have a better shot maybe at some of those techniques from a different angle, just let me know in the comment section. And other than that, please just head over to my channel and have a look at my other spoon carving and axe carving videos. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you liked it and you're gonna come back. Please subscribe to the channel and give me a thumb up, and I'm gonna see you next time. Folks, I want to give you a very quick look at splitting with an axe. And by splitting I don't actually mean splitting firewood, but I'm more talking about splitting pieces for your carving. So I have a very small piece of wood here just to demonstrate the basic technique. Splitting with an axe, with your carving axe, is not 100% recommended because it can actually alter over time the change of your it can alter the shape of your eye, by constantly pounding on the pole. But this piece of steel is so thick and chunky that I don't really worry about it. However, also batoning your very fine carving edge through pieces of wood can actually leave some damage even on very good steel. However, I batoned this way. I'm gonna show you. Before I got my froe, which is a very old European kind of tool that you can split stuff with, shingles, or like we're gonna do now, wood for carving. Before that, for years I actually split my stuff the way I'm gonna show you now. The very basic form, how I do it, and I really just want to give you a very quick look at it, is I search for cracks in the wood, or I just gonna look at how I want to split the wood, where the pith is, and upon those characteristics I decide the direction of the split. I never want to split towards me like this, because when I go through the wood, something can happen to my axe and it can somehow can come at me. So I always want to split at a 90-degree angle. And I also want to make sure that the piece of wood is resting on my chopping block nicely by itself. I don't want to balance stuff. If it's not perpendicular on the bottom, it doesn't stand by itself, just give it a cut with your folding saw or your craft saw or something, so it just rests there. It's a lot safer. Then split 90 degrees to your standing direction. Carve yourself from a piece of wood that you cannot use for carving or something, like this piece of maple here. Just make yourself a nice mallet. Put the axe onto the piece of wood perpendicular to you, and just give it one nice whack in order to secure the axe in the piece. Okay, so now the axe is secured in the piece, and now we can go on with the splitting. When you split, just whack nicely, holding the axe perpendicular, making sure it stays in this direction, and just hit the pole of your axe and drive the axe into the piece of wood. And you just saw, you never know what's gonna happen. Sometimes the axe gets stuck, sometimes the piece is just splitting by itself, and sometimes you really whack it all the way through and the axe actually wants to go down or swing to the side. That's why we keeping it at the 90-degree angle. Hello folks, welcome to another carving video. Today I want to talk about axe carving. Welcome to another carving video. Today I want to... Hey folks, welcome to another carving video. Come on, really?